Happy quarantine, everybody. And I mean that. Happy quarantine. You don't have to have a miserable quarantine or a sad quarantine or a lonely quarantine. Just happy quarantine. In fact, I want to go to the Word of God. There's a story that this quarantine keeps reminding me of. It's in Acts chapter 16, where Paul and Silas have been traveling around there in Philippi right now in the 16th chapter, and they've just been thrown in jail. You can read earlier do a little bit of your own homework in chapter 16 to see why they're in there. But I want to catch it with them being thrown into prison, what happened to them, and then what they did in their quarantine. So starting at verse 22, the crowd joined in the attack against Paul and Silas, and the magistrates ordered them to be stripped and beaten with rods. It makes your quarantine seem pretty good, eh? After that, after they had been severely flogged, they were thrown into prison, and the jailer was commanded to guard them carefully. When he received these orders, he put them in the inner cells, right in the deep dungeon, and fastened their feet in the stocks. So here they are quarantined, a worse quarantine than you're going through. Verse 25. About midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the other prisoners were listening to them. Suddenly there was such a violent earthquake that the foundations of the prison doors were shaken. The foundations of the prison were shaken. All at once the prison doors flew open, and everyone's chains came loose. The jailer woke up, and when he saw the prison doors open, he drew his sword and was about to kill himself because he thought the prisoners had escaped. But Paul shouted, "Don't harm yourself. We're all here." The jailer called for lights, rushed in, and fell trembling before Paul and Silas. He then brought them out and asked, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" See, it started with the decision of Paul and Silas in their quarantine, but being beaten like a worse quarantine than you are going through right now. And they chose to keep their eyes on Jesus, similar to Peter when he walked on the water. As long as he stared at Jesus, he did the miraculous. He even surprised himself. But then when he looked at the waves, he looked at conditions, he looked at the environment affected him, he sunk. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Look, Paul and Silas chose to pray and sing hymns to God, just to sing. Fill your home with worship. YouTube's still available to you. You got all the data in the world now because these companies are giving you free data. How great is that? Use it to fill your home with worship, with praise, and maybe turn it all off, and you just lift up a joyful noise to the Lord. Make a choice right now, because two things are going to happen. Number one, it's going to change you. Happy quarantine. Put a smile on your face, sit up straight, maybe put down Candy Crush for a while, and just begin to sing praise and watch your atmosphere change. The other thing that's going to happen is it'll change those people that you're quarantining with, or maybe if you post something on social media or make a video like this to encourage people, you can change the environment around you. The most miraculous thing for me isn't the doors flying open and all those physical miracle things. They were in the inner cells with the worst criminals. And when all of their shackles fell off, everyone's chains came loose, it says in verse 26, and the doors flew open. They were so taken with the environment that Paul and Silas had given them, this praise, this happy quarantine, nothing can take away. Paul later wrote to the Philippians, and said, "I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation." And here he is proving it. Paul and Silas singing hymns, he changed the environment, and those people were so taken, these hardened criminals were so taken with the environment, when their shackles came off, they decided to stay. They had freedom. They could have left their quarantine, but they decided to stay in the environment. Change your environment. Change, worship from the inside out. Don't let the environment change you. You change the environment. Spread some cheer, spread some worship. Because the other thing, I love that last thing. People are watching. Christians, people are watching your reaction. And if they can see that Jesus makes a difference in you, even in a global pandemic like this, that you can still hold your peace, still smile, still worship God, you're not complaining, they will ask you, "Sir, what must I do to be saved?"